So today I'm going to show you the basics of using Tinkercad. Tinkercad, which is at tinkercad.com, is a simple website to create three-dimensional objects. So I'm going to show you how to use that. So the best way to sign up for a new Tinkercad account is to click up on the Join Now button in the top right corner. And I recommend everybody use the choice to create a personal account. And then click the sign in with Google. And you'll have to agree to follow their rules. And that's it. Okay, that's the easiest way to get signed up to use Tinkercad. Once you're in Tinkercad, so basic navigation over here, up in the top right hand corner, you'll see your icon. You could change the icon, and you'll see notifications and your profile and all that other good stuff. You could also see gallery items in here. These are things that other people have created. Some of them are really complex. Some of them are more simple. So it's up to you what, and you could search for stuff as well. So for instance, if I go here to search, I could look for Star Wars, and it will give me a lot of Star Wars kind of things. So there's like a logo, there's like a little gun, all kinds of little characters, little porgs. So these are different things that people have created in Tinkercad. So you could do really simple stuff to really complex stuff. There's also a blog. The blog is kind of interesting if you want to learn more about 3D printing and different stuff. There's also a learn section where you could have nice tutorials about how 3D printing works, and there's all these little starters to help you kind of figure stuff out. I do recommend that for anybody to use the Learn tool to go through these little lessons. They're actually very good to like learn how to navigate your way around Tinkercad. And the Teach one, there's some lesson plans for teachers that you could choose from. Some of them are pretty good, but the best way to really learn about Tinkercad is to play. So if you click on the Tinkercad logo here, it'll take you back to your dashboard page. So besides 3D printing, you could also design circuits. There's code blocks to learn basic coding, and there's also lessons here as well. Okay, but we're going to just start today in 3D design. And so to get started, we're going to hit the Create New Design button. And this will take us to the design page. The first time you go here, you'll see it'll take you through these little things like they just added a feature to add notes. So anytime you see here, you'll see something that looks like this. Over here on the right side, you'll see different categories of things. Typically, we're going to have like basic shapes as our starter, but there's also different ones like design starters. So you could start with something a little more complex at first and then add to it. There's different creatures. I'm going to talk about that in a second. There's vehicles you could kind of put together and all kinds of different stuff. I recommend starting with basic shapes when you're first starting. There's also your work plane and different tool rulers that you could use to measure stuff, and then you use them and dismiss when you don't need them. There's also in the top left corner is the name of your project, so you can click there, and I'm going to say Garza Keychain. Okay, and then you just hit enter to save it. Over here on the left-hand side, you'll see you could also move your work plane around. I prefer to use a wired mouse for this because it does, when you right-click, you could just move the whole work plane around. This is called the work plane, so you can see different views of that. But you could also use this up here. You could also do this on your touchpad. I personally find it a little cumbersome, so I like to use a mouse for this. So I'm going to get started. We're going to start with one of the first projects I have everyone do, which is to make a keychain. Okay, so keychains are, I have one here for, like I have a Harry Potter one, and I have a little Thor's Mjolnir one. I have, but I had some more over here. Okay, I have my keys right here. So on my keychain, like I have R2D2 one, and I have like something that looks like this. So I'm going to make one with my name on it, okay? And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to put maybe a little shape and your name on a keychain, okay? So keychains are not super thick, and it is helpful to kind of have a ruler nearby so you could visualize how big things are. So I have my ruler right here as well. So I'm gonna make mine, I'm gonna make it a square or a rectangle. So I'm gonna grab this cube, and I'm not gonna keep it this size. So notice these white squares along the sides. On those, I could just pull it out and make it as big as I want. These numbers that you'll see for the length and width are in millimeters. So some basic review right now is there are 10 millimeters per centimeter. A centimeter is about a little close to the size of a dime, okay? So millimeters are really small, okay? And if you look at a ruler, it's going to be the little tiny dashes between the bigger numbers, okay? So for our keychain, we're going to want something, I don't know, about 50 to 60 long. So I'm going to make this. You could just click on this number here and hit 60. And if it's made, you want to try something bigger, you could just drag it out if you want. So you could have two different ways of doing that. 30 is a good, because that's about a little bigger than a quarter, so that, or an inch, so that should be good, 30 along this other side. And then I'm going to move my work plane around. You could adjust the size of how tall it is. So right now mine is set at 20 millimeters, which is a little too big for a keychain. I'm going to make it closer to 5. So I'm going to actually lower it like that so it's 5. So I'm gonna move my work plane around so I can see it. Okay, so I have a decent size keychain. It's kind of like squarish right now. So what else does a keychain have on it? You might have words on it. You might have little shapes on it. So let's look and see what we have over here. There's some stars. There's some round shapes. So one thing I definitely need, I'm gonna want to put words. So notice this little text tool. I'm going to just drag it out, and it's pretty big right now, but if you double click on it, you'll get this little guy, and this is where you could actually put in the text that you're going to be displaying on your keychain. So I'm going to call mine my last name, Garza, and actually I'm going to put Miss Garza, okay? And then you could even change the font on it or make it not a lot of choices, but you have some choices. And I'm just going to make this whole thing a little smaller so it fits kind of on my keychain. Okay, there it goes. Notice I'm leaving a little room off to the side because guess what? Keychains need a hole to put it on a little hook, little round thing. So you need to be able to put your keys on there. So I'm going to leave a little hole off to the side. And actually, I'm going to lower this down, and I'm going to make it taller like that. Okay, so you can move around and see how it's looking. Okay, it's looking, I like how it looks. And maybe I want to lower it down a little bit. So it's at 10 right now. I'm going to make it like 7. So it'll stick out a little bit, but not too much. Okay. Yeah, if I want to add any other shapes on here, I can. So maybe I'm going to put a star on here. Okay, and again, I'm going to just, I don't want to do that. I'm going to just move this. Maybe I want to put that star in place of that little dot after Miss. And I'm just moving my thing around here. See, that's way too high. Oops. And here's another tip. You can use the like arrows on your keyboard to move it a tiny little bit, which helps you can kind of control it a little better. So I'm going to lower this to 7, just like everything else, because you don't want it to stick up too much. Oh, and it's, there we go. And for something like this, there's also, you can see if I angle this a different way, there's this little arrow at the bottom here. And when I do that, try it again. I see I can move this. So I'm going to make sure it's not. There it goes. Looks pretty good now. Okay. All right. So I'm going to also put a hole up here in the corner. So I'm going to look up here at the circle here, the cylinder. I'm going to pull this out here again, make it smaller. So I really only need about 4 by 4. This is good. And this one I'm not going to make smaller. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it right in the kind of, not right on the corner, but maybe just off of the corner. Okay, make sure it like fits there pretty good. And I'm going to look at it totally from the side. So if I were to print this right now, it would just have this big hole right here. I'm going to make this into a hole. So I'm going to click that. And when I click on the color, I could change the color. The color really doesn't matter, guys. But if you change it to a hole, it'll make a hole in your object. And then if you click on it, do you see the little cone at the top here? The cone is like an elevator. It pushes things up and down. So if I go to the side here and push it like halfway through, I could see that that's going to be a complete hole. If I would have left this back where it was at before, at 0, it wouldn't go push all the way through, and the bottom layer would have a little piece of plastic there when it prints. So that's why I want to push it all the way down so that it's going to be clean all the way through to the bottom. Now, it's kind of hard to see the hole right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a box with my mouse around everything. And then up here at the top, you'll see this little group tool. And when I do that, I could now see the hole. And notice it puts everything in one color. It doesn't matter what color your pieces are. All that matters is that what determines the color of your final object when it gets printed on the 3D printer is what color plastic I actually have in the 3D printer at the time. So you guys don't get to decide that. I do, but that's the way you could make sure you have a hole. So you could use whatever color you want when you're designing. You just won't know what the final color is until it actually gets printed. And I think I need something on up here for mine. So I think what I'm gonna do, where's that? This guy. I'm gonna turn this. So I'm gonna use my little turner and turn it 90 degrees. And then I'm gonna make it really thin. And I'm gonna do something like that. I'm gonna make it so it like sticks up a little, almost like a line at the top. And maybe I will do that at the bottom. So I'm going to ungroup. So I ungroup that, and now I'm going to move like my words and my little star for my dots up. And then maybe I will copy this, Control C, Control V, and kind of put it down here. And I'm going to align those so they're all centered and everything looks good. Oops, I have to move that back over. What did I just do? By the way, there is an undo button up here, and you could also use Control V, I'm sorry, Control Z to undo as well. Just move down. And if it's not moving close enough for you, do you see down here where it says Snap Grid? You can make this smaller. So I'm going to make it like 25.25. So it'll move in a smaller nudge at a time, so it fits it better for me. Okay, that looks pretty good, I think. So I'm going to select everything again and group it one last time. And then this is what my final keychain will look like. So the hole is big enough for the little round piece of a keychain could go through, or a lanyard, or even a piece of string or a chain. But now it's ready to rock and roll, and you could send it to the 3D printer. So in order to get stuff to the 3D printer, you have to do two things. One, you have to rename the document. And when you rename it, make sure to put your name and then what it is. So I, who handles all the 3D printing, will know who it's for and what it is, because I keep a master database of every print job we do and whether it printed correctly. So, and then just make sure that gets saved that way. Then to send it to me, you're gonna hit export up here. And when you hit export, you're gonna say STL. STL is the format that our 3D printer needs the objects in order to print them. And it automatically should save it to your downloads folder. And from there, you have two options. You could either email it to me directly at my Miss Garza email address, or you could put it in Google Classroom and your teacher could share those with me, or just add me to the Google Classroom page and I could find them and 3D print for you. So whatever's easier. I get emails from students all the time, and I will pretty much print anything except for weapons and inappropriate things, okay? But as long as, like, I've had students design cars and robots and little guys and little characters that they made, any of those kinds of things are totally fine, and I'll be glad to 3D print them at any time for any student, okay? So you would just attach this to an email and send it to me, and I would get it. So let's talk about how that would look. So if you go to Gmail, I'm logged in as Larry Line right now. So I'm going to hit compose. I'm going to choose Garza, and you can choose any of the Garza emails. I have a lot of them, but they all go to the same email address. And I'm going to say 3D print, please. And I'm going to attach the files. Please print for me. And I'm going to attach it. And if you go to your downloads folder, it should be right there. And you're just going to click on it, and it will add it to the document. Make sure it says .stl at the end, and then you would send it, and I will let you know when it's 3D printed. But that's pretty much 3D printing. You're going to designing in Tinkercad, you're going to use these basic shapes to make more complicated shapes and objects out of that. Okay? If you have any questions or need more help, please feel free to reach out to me. 3D printing is a kind of a cool thing because it's okay to mess it up, and you can always go back and redesign it. To get back to your dashboard in Tinkercad, you just click on the icon up here in the corner, and it will take you back to your master list, and now your objects will appear there on your list, and you could always go back and change it in the future. Good luck. Happy designing.